right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Passive Cash Flow Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Fragnito. I have a very interesting guest with us today. We have Tom Clayton. How we do today, Tom?
Hey, fantastic. Happy to be here and excited to get this one going.
Absolutely, my friend. So Tom here, I met him at an Opal event, which is a family office event. Tom has an amazing story. He played in the NFL. Now he's wheeling and dealing in the New Providence real estate market. He's building properties. He's buying and owning. He had an interesting story of how he got to where he is today. And Tom, we really clicked there, had a good time at the event. So want to have you on the podcast here and learn more about your story, man.
Sounds good, man. Happy to get this thing going. So
definitely. All right, so I got some questions for you here. So let's jump right into them. So what was it like transitioning from playing in the NFL to becoming a full-time real estate investor?
Definitely. No, really good question. So the NFL does a really good job of, setting guys up for life after football. There's what they call transition programs. So they'll expose players to franchising, obviously real estate to some degree, coaching, if that's an interest. And then just an array of other things. You could be in the tech industry. The access of the NFL is essentially unlimited, right? There's, just an abundance of companies that would like to have former professional athletes be a part of their company or their industry in one way or another. So in my case, I was exposed to real estate. There was some sort of an alliance or an affiliation with a big brokerage called CB Richard Ellis. And so CB Richard Ellis had some affiliation with the league, and the way that they set it up for the guys in the in transition or who were attending this transition program was if you wanted to, just do a basic internship, no payment or anything, you could just jump on. However, if you were to have had a real estate license, you could actually get paid for it. So I was in my sixth season, going into my seventh year. I was at my sixth off season, I should say, going into my seventh year with the Arizona Cardinals. So I was like, I was starting to consider life after football. I'd already had 2 contracts. I was going into my 3rd contract. So I'm like, you know what? I've had a great run, but I do need to start preparing for life after football.
Sure.
So ended up deciding that, hey, I do want to travel down the path of real estate, and I would like to have a license just so I'm versed with the terms, right? I had no prior experience. So I figured if I was going to take on an internship, I didn't want to just be a blank sheet. I at least wanted to have some familiarity with real estate terms, just lingo, and just have a feel for it. So I decided to, during that off season, take a real estate course for a brokerage license. So ended up taking that course, got familiar with the terms, did pass that course. But through the process of that, I realized, hey, I don't want to be a broker selling other people's assets. I would actually like to be, a developer. I like to create the assets being sold.
Sure.
So never actually did anything with CB Richard Ellis. However, that affiliation with the NFL just triggered me to go down the path of getting a real estate license. And I'm grateful that I did that because in doing so, I actually immediately after getting that license, obviously I then go on to play for the Cardinals that season. I actually got hurt. Left the team on an injury settlement. And so 2013 was my retirement year. I retired. So let me have to pull back a little bit. So I started in 2007, drafted by the San Francisco 49ers, played for a number of teams, ended my NFL career in 2013 with Arizona Cardinals. But fortunately, again, I did have that real estate license. So I pursued that path. I went to one real estate investing meeting in Boston. It was a very interesting guy who was speaking there. So I went up to him, just started to chat with him, and come to find out he had a brokerage, like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes from my home where I lived in Foxborough. So that was great. So he offered me, some office space. He knew I was a former athlete, newly licensed, salesperson. And he goes, well, why don't you come on into my office, kind of get a feel for how things go. And, I'll teach you the ropes. I'm like, okay, sounds good. So I'm in his office. I'm learning the lingo. I'm sticking around. I'm just kind of trailing him. This guy's name is Kenny Olson, and I still to this day keep in contact with him.
Great.
So Kenny brought me in, and I tell you, within 2 weeks of being in his office, I had my first shot at a project, and the project being a fix and flip project. Okay. Had no prior experience, but I read a ton of books, was starting to familiarize myself with the terms of real estate, and I knew what had to happen. But again, you don't know until you're
Yeah.
in it, till you know. And
Right.
so again, I think the biggest turning point was me accepting the job. Right? He goes, "I have an opportunity. Do you want to take it?" Because apparently, he had an investor who was supposed to perform. The guy had to fly out to Europe for whatever reason, and he was unable to perform. So there was a deadline on the closing.
Yeah.
And so I just stepped in. Right? I had no prior experience, knew nothing about how to finance these deals. I'm
Right.
going straight out of pocket. Like
Uh,
I knew nothing other. So
Signing the check. Yeah.
yeah, so I stepped in, and what was super unique about this was it was in Rhode Island. I lived in Massachusetts. It was in Rhode Island, but it was only like 15 minutes away from where I lived in Massachusetts. Very short trek, and I'm grateful for that because again, had no prior experience.
Hmm.
So dive right into this thing head first, knew nothing, right? And so everything that could have gone wrong on that project absolutely did go wrong. But
Uh-huh.
it was a great stripe earner, if you will. I earned my stripes on that one. So ended up getting shut down, right? There were guys working without permits.
Yeah.
It was it was pretty intense, but I didn't know, right? You don't know
Yeah.
what you don't know.
Uh-huh.
But I was fortunate. I was fortunate that that one of the building inspectors realized this was my first go. He was familiar with me being a former Patriots player, so he kind of walked me through what I needed to know, at least to get that job done. And I
Great.
was fortunate to be able to squeak out a little small profit, but within that process of coming out of my own pocket and realizing that there's better ways to finance, I did
Right.
learn that I could leverage. So fortunately, again, I was able to squeeze out a little bit of a profit on that deal. And then learning how leverage worked, I was able to, dissect that profit into purchasing three more projects. Right.
Great.
So while learning, the elements of finance, I would naturally learn how to do fix and flips as I continue to progress. So that three projects then turned into 10 projects turned into 20, and then 20 into 50, onto 100, several hundred now where I stand today. But that's all been a product of growth while in the process, and we were able to now grow our construction team from what once was just some ragtag guys off the street that came along with the project,
Uh-huh.
to
Uh-huh.
having a team of about 100 tradesmen,
Wow.
carpenters, plumbers, mechanic, whatever you can think of. We have reached for that, and doing now, from single family to now doing several multifamily projects at once. So
Yeah.
the growth has been crazy, over the course of 10 years. And I'd be happy to, dive into that with you.
At People's Capital Group, we help you invest in real estate. Build your wealth by owning professionally managed apartment buildings in the northern New Jersey market. We want to show you how owning real estate is attainable, even for the busy professionals that don't have the time or experience investing in real estate. Now, we only work with select people who are serious about building wealth, so find out if you qualify at peoplescapitalgroup.com. Yeah, yeah. And just as a follow-up question here on that, how do you manage so many tradesmen and contractors in your business and not pull your hair out? I mean, you probably
Sure.
want to work out some days, but what's the hierarchy there? Do you have
Sure.
assistant management side of that?
Sure, absolutely. So believe it or not, right? So while I was doing the fix and flips and we were doing high volume, so at any point in time, we would be doing 3 to 5 single family fix and flip projects. And
Yeah.
throughout the course of a year, we would kick out somewhere between 15 and 20. And we did that for 5+ years.
Mhm.
So we have a pretty substantial fix flip portfolio. And what makes our projects unique is they're all like A-class finish, top tier luxury. Obviously, if you go into the website, you can get a feel for that. But we did that with one specific crew. I had about 20 guys that were underneath me. We gave those guys benefits. They were, they belonged to us, right?
Right.
But what I learned is I was really being condensed down with how many places I could be at once while manning a crew of my own. So not only did I have a broker's license, I also had a contractor's license that I had gotten along the way as well. So I was able to pull my own permits. After that first debacle of that first project where guys didn't have any permits, I learned. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get the license.
Right.
But anyhow, manning that crew, I felt like when I really kind of took that 30,000 foot view of my business, I'm like, me manning this crew is really holding me back. And we were starting to really get into multifamily projects because, again, we were doing so many single families. It just started to make sense to do multi. And by the time we got to multifamily, that dynamic did not work with me manning a crew. So,
Yeah.
I considered that it was right around COVID, so 2020, 2021. I decided I was going to trim the fat. I was going to cut off any additional overhang that wasn't, particularly expanding the business. And
Right.
so in doing so, I hired, this was more experimental, but I had hired two construction managers, each with their own set of carpenters, and I would continue, hiring the trades because I already had plumbers, electricians, and mechanics that had been working. They're independents, but they work exclusively for us because of the high volume. So I already
Yeah.
had part figured. But
Right.
what I really needed was the manpower on the carpentry side. And so I hired two construction managers while I still had the crew of my own. And I had three different projects all in the same city. And I just kind of let them rip. I was like, I'm going to let them show me who's most fit for the gig.
Sure.
And in doing so, the crew that I had, they just started to naturally fade. Right. And then the two that I had hired were starting to really shine.
Yep.
So needless to say, I had gone ahead and severed ties with the former crew that I'd had for over 5+ years. They had grown with me, I'd grown with them, but the time was it was at that point where we needed to split ways.
Yeah.
Well, in doing so, because having the two construction managers meaning I didn't need to be on site. Those construction managers were manning the carpenters, manning the trades, and managing the flow of that project. I was in oversight. So when it came down to having the two, I'm still simultaneously doing many projects, putting each of those construction managers on top of several projects. I realized that I was actually gaining rapport more with one out of those two construction managers. So the other crew ended up getting fired, right? I had to let them go, but they had done a number of good projects for me. So it was a clean cut. But I just realized I had more rapport with another construction manager whose name is Charlie. So Charlie, since I brought Charlie on in like 2021, and since then he's developed over 100 units for me.
Wow, it's great.
Correct. That's still including stuff that we have under construction, but nonetheless, that's what he's capable of.
Sure.
The crew that I ended up cutting, I think they did maybe around 50, which in the course of like 2-3 years was pretty good as well. But it was just the rapport was built more with Charlie. And so Charlie is, pretty much my on-site construction manager. And he can manage, and he's done this. He's managed stuff, at the northern part of the state to the southern part of the state. He can do it, right? Pretty much that role that I played where I'm here and I'm there, he's able to perform that for me, allowing me to go to Opal events, meet persons such as yourself and things like that, and really just kind of speak about my business because we do have a pretty unique way that we run our business. But I wouldn't have known that had I not been able to go out and meet people like you and share it and talk about it and realize, oh, wow, maybe we do have something pretty unique here. But only by way of having someone who could man the ship was I able to then get out and actually begin talking about real estate. So it's been really good transitioning into a construction manager.
Yeah, basically any good entrepreneur tries to delegate as soon as it becomes more affordable to do it, whether it's posting on social media or managing construction crews. I ran into the challenge around 2015. We started our management company and we had a number of contractors on payroll and we were essentially paying them for their time. And all of a sudden projects started taking longer and costing us more money overall. So we thought we'd be more efficient having crews on payroll, but actually when you pay for people's hourly time, they just take their time completing the projects. Why not? The incentive is to take a longer period of time at each project. Now we have just independent contractors that work for us. And so we have enough projects to keep them busy. They don't have to go out and market and find other people to work for. They can focus just on our projects, but it's up to them. They get paid when the project's complete, right? And as they complete parts of the project. So the incentive is completely changed to finish the project faster and get paid faster. And that's better, for everyone. So
pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, construction management is it's a full-time job, especially when you have that many gigs, jobs going on. And these construction managers were able to focus 100% on that. So that's obviously why they were able to move their teams faster than you doing a million other things and then trying to also be a construction manager. It's like, well, of course, they're going to be more efficient and effective. So that was a smart move to delegate that. All right, let's dig into the next question here. So was it hard to play in the NFL or be a full-time real estate investor?
Oh, wow. Great question. Well, I'll tell you this. Let's talk about the similarities first.
Yeah.
Right? There's a great deal of preparation that goes into being a successful athlete as well as being a successful developer.
Yeah.
There's certain skill sets, right? Being able to, in my case, again, where I was manning a team, being able to be a leader, delegator, motivator, being able to put people in position to succeed, right? Knowing one thing we used to talk about in football is know your personnel, right? Know who you have on the field and know what those guys are capable of doing. No different than manning a construction team, right? Know your personnel, know what they're capable of, put them in position to succeed. Right. So I really take a lot of, what I learned being a professional athlete into the development space. So I really like to consider them, there's being more similarities than differences. But right. If I had to give you, differences or say which one was more difficult, I'd say this, right? So for the NFL, you're essentially an employee, right? You work for the owner, you work for the team, right? Your performance, you're going to get paid based on your contract, yes, but the longevity of your career is going to be based on, whether that owner feels like you're bringing value to the team. Whereas I'd say on the development side, me being the owner, I'm now in the owner position, right? So so more than anything, it's the roles have changed. Right before I was once the one, putting up my ability for pay, and now I'm actually seeking people with the ability to pay. So I would say the differences mainly are where I sit relative to the business or playing, versus there being like some dramatic differences. I think they're equally challenging and they're equally rewarding. But I think where I sit now relative to where I did when I was a player is probably the biggest difference.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very insightful. So what are you working on right now? I know you have a ton of fix and flips you've done. Now you're getting a little more into multifamily and ground development. So what do you have going on at this point?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So right now I'm wrapping up a townhouse development that it looks superb. So I'm really excited about that one. It's very well located. You being on the East Coast, you know what I-95 is. So this develops right off of I-95. And do you have a 295 in Jersey?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's actually 195.
195. Okay. Yeah. I've got a 195 too. But so this one perfectly positioned between I-95 and 295, which are major thoroughfares if you're a commuter getting to and fro the city of Providence, or if you're going to Boston, or if you're going south to New York. Like this is perfect for that ideal commuter. So we're wrapping up that project. Super excited about that. I've got a church that I'm redeveloping into multifamily. Super excited about that one. That one's in downtown Providence. Super exciting. Just finished up a new construction apartment development. Had pretty good size on that one. That one is just north of Newport in a city called Bristol. It's an ocean dwelling town. It's got great history. I think it's got the longest standing 4th of July parade in the country, something like that.
Wow, that's cool.
I'm closing on a nursing home that I'm converting into multifamily. Wow. That one's super exciting. Had to go through the process of approval. However, we did just have these new laws passed in Rhode Island that we're super excited about that make adaptive reuse a by right development. So give you a case in point of how that's meaningful. The church project that I mentioned, it took me 2 years to get permitting for that, approvals and permitting. Okay. And that is, again, an adaptive reuse project. Whereas now, adaptive reuse project that I have with this new law, I'm essentially drawing plans, showing a site plan, presenting it to the planning board, and then getting permitting. There is no zoning hearing. There is no, abutters that can come in and oppose, no NIMBYs in this case. Because one of the most unique things about Rhode Island, though the smallest state, it is the second most populated per square mile in the country.
Okay.
Only to Jersey. So
we're pretty packed in here in Jersey. We like it close and warm.
Yeah, for sure. But all that said, right, smallest state, but tremendous amount of population here. And we're ranked the last in development. So needless to say, prices have continued to go up. We've been on a trajectory since I got into the real estate industry in 2013. And it's just been upward since then. And the reason being is, we've been ranked top 10 in inbound migration since 2020, since COVID. People have, we call it here, we call it the best kept secret of the Northeast. But everyone's starting to figure it out. Like when you came for Opal and you saw that scenery.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And
the beach right there. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's incredible. But it gets overlooked, right? It's sandwiched between two major cities, New York, Boston. So to kind of get overlooked. However, once you do experience it, once you do take it on, it's something that you want to continue to have a part of. And so we've been grateful to really expand our business here in Rhode Island. And yeah, it's a special market, and it's in need of new development. Like our tenant base is literally nationwide. We get people from all over the country that are coming here for a number of reasons, be it for work, obviously, but there's high education here. You've got Brown University, you've got Rhode Island College, Providence College. I mean, it's just for the size of the state. There's a tremendous amount of universities. Medical is held at high regard here as well, so a lot of people come here for that. There's also a renewable energy initiative, right? Multi-billion-dollar companies are coming here to build wind turbines and so on and so forth. Yeah, and we've actually been starting to house them as well. So there's quite a bit happening here, and people are coming, but there hasn't been any inventory. There's been nowhere to put them, and that's the reason why the price points have been continuing to rise. So the state put out an initiative to say, hey, we know that we have a number of large commercial buildings that are underutilized, and we're slim on space. It's just the smallest state, and then just the Northeast in general is fairly compressed.
Sure.
So new laws were passed at the top of the year that allow these dilapidated buildings to then be repositioned into multifamily. And as far as I know, I'm one of the first movers on this. It's become my niche to do adaptive reuse projects. One of the really unique things is, my attorney's office so my attorney works with the Speaker of the House for the state of Rhode Island. So, so we're pretty close to a lot of the movement that's happening, at a governmental level, but also at a street level from my viewpoint as a developer. So we're knowing what's needed to kind of piece together the ideal scenario for our economy. And it was decided that adaptive reuse would kind of be the way to get more assets into the market, or I should say more housing into the market. And right now we're really pursuing that heavy, because that's something that, we're able to cut out a lot of red tape by just by this being a buy right scenario now. So really a lot of what I'm looking for is adaptive reuse projects. I've got another one, a school right there in Newport where you and I met, that I'm super excited about. That'll be just under 30 units for that one there. The price points are just so strong. Like, just to give you an idea, for my portfolio and everything I typically look at, each unit is worth about $500,000. Right. Because the rents are extremely strong. But also too, there's just a lack of inventory. So, when you put them in the proper areas where people want to be, as well as you add in the fact that there's low inventory, the values are through the roof. And when I give you these values, they're based off conservative cap rates, 6% cap rates. If I were to go any lower than that, the numbers would just be off the charts. It wouldn't even make any sense. But that's kind of where we are. The market is definitely a sweet spot. But that said, you have to have the proper, you need to have the proper team in order to be able to be successful here in this market. I've learned that as well.
At People's Capital Group, we help you invest in real estate. Build your wealth by owning professionally managed apartment buildings in the northern New Jersey market. We want to show you how owning real estate is attainable, even for the busy professionals that don't have the time or experience investing in real estate. Now, we only work with select people who are serious about building wealth. So find out if you qualify at peoplescapitalgroup.com.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, really for any market, but that's also, it's a great market to be in. I love how focused it is on one area there. It's not a huge state. You don't have a ton of space. Same challenges here with New Jersey. You have so many people trying to live in one place, and this insatiable demand for housing. Now, this adaptive reuse strategy is really beautiful because you can get these assets at much greater prices, being that they're less useful and therefore selling at, discounted prices. I mean, you probably have tons of old schools, maybe vacant office buildings, churches. I was in Bayonne the other day and walking past this huge lot, and it was all boarded up, and I was like, it's right next to this beautiful apartment building, and it was an old church, and it was, I was thinking to myself, it's not really the best, highest and best use of this area. It looked very overgrown, and part of me wanted to bring the church back to life and, become a pastor. But then I thought, well, we also could use more housing here. So I was torn. I was torn what to do. But, Yeah, it's a really great structure. We see that in Manhattan as well, with a lot of vacant office buildings being repurposed into housing. And there is challenges with taking an asset that was built to do one thing and serve one problem,
Yeah.
and then readapt it to housing, which requires more plumbing and electricity and foot traffic and a different layout. But it seems like for the most part, if you can go in there and gut renovate something, you can pretty much turn it into what you need it to be, the housing that people desire today. Are you finding that it's possible?
Oh no, for sure. So just to kind of go back on your initial statement in terms of like the basis in which you purchased them, just to give you a good example. So that nursing home that I'm converting to multifamily, it's about 20,000 square feet, this nursing home,
Nice.
which in 2020 was purchased as an active nursing home
Hmm.
for 4.3 million. Okay.
Right. Right.
Fast forward to 2024, I'm
Yeah.
purchasing it at a receivership auction for 850,000. Yeah.
What? Oh my, I thought you meant
Yeah.
8.5 million. I was
No, 8,000. Right.
wow.
When I'm done with it, it'll be worth 8.5, between 8.5 and 10 million. Yeah, it
Right.
will.
Right. Mhm.
But I'm buying it at 850, right? So that's a number that, I just went back in the past to buy it at that number, right? I bought that at I don't know, 2010 number,
Yeah.
So that's one benefit of when you're buying, a distressed commercial is it literally has no use. Once it's become distressed and the condition becomes for its prior usage unusable, then cities and towns or even owners are just ready to discard them at whatever cost it is to get them off their hands. And so I was fortunate in this
Right.
case. This was actually owned by the state, or I should say, owned by the city. I just finished another adaptive reuse project. We converted it's a historic school into multifamily, and this one, it was a phenomenal project. Up for restoration of the year. It really just worked out really well. But just so happens to be 3 miles from the nursing home. So we've already, kind of shown what we're capable of to the city, to the people of the city. So everyone's been pretty excited that we're taking on this nursing home.
Right.
And I was willing, and certainly when I underwrote it, I was willing to and expecting to pay more. It just so happened that there wasn't anyone else that was willing to take on the job. It's a 20,000 square foot vacant structure that's got, mildew here and there, just
Sure.
stress that you probably couldn't imagine. But
Yeah.
I've done even deeper dives, right? So this one to me just seemed like an excellent match. I've got other assets in the area, so really was a good acquisition for us. But that's another thing too with adaptive reuse. Like everybody doesn't do it, right? You
Yeah.
especially here, you've got a large pool of rehabbers, people that are doing like the single family deals, and then
Right.
you've got just a select few companies that are doing maybe say like the 300 unit, tall high rises downtown, but just like in that mid size, say 50 to 20 unit, or even 20 to
Yeah.
80 to 100. Like I don't really have any competition in that space.
Mhm.
And so we've just worked our way into being that, that mid-sized multifamily developer. So when there's
Yeah.
a product that fits within that box, we're getting the calls. So there really
Sure.
isn't too much marketing to get to where we are now with our deal flow. It's more or less specializing in a certain field or a certain area where
Yeah.
when these type of projects come up, people are seeking to fish it to us to see if we're interested. And so that's kind of been, how we've sourced our deals for like say the last 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
Has been by way of people bringing them to us. Otherwise, it's me going belly to belly with the seller. I can't
Yeah.
even tell you the last time I bought something off market.
Right off a
Right.
realtor or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's interesting. I mean, reputation is everything. As Warren Buffett says, it takes 20 years to build one and 20 minutes to destroy one. So, that's good. You don't have social media. Then that's one less
Hey,
to worry about,
right.
right? So,
Hey,
no,
correct.
that's how we get deals as well. Our reputation's everything. Our relationships. People know you can close. They know what you're looking for. They bring it to you. You move on it, right? And it sounds like you have some great deals coming in the door. A great investment philosophy with repurposing assets. All right, so you have good deal flow. You have a good amount of contractors you work with, independent contractors, and so on. Good track record, a nice market niche there. So, what are you seeking? What type of people are you seeking to team up with, and how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. So, I've gone through a number of thought experiments of what that would be like to have, people who, I should say, investor types get involved with our deals. So something unique about my business, which is just my wife and I, we haven't had any outside investment. Our portfolio, as it stands, including fix and flips that have been bought and sold, and projects that we have developed and hold, we're in the ballpark of about 100 million that we've done over the course of 10 years.
Incredible.
A good portion, I'd say 40 million of that we sold, roughly about 60 million of that we hold. So we've been able to do that with, our own legs and feet, right? We haven't had anyone come in and do any of the lifting for us. We do have good financing where we've been able to get really good leverage, which has allowed us to, be our own equity. And so, we've gone over the experiment of what this would be like if we had someone put in equity on behalf of the project and then make a return based on that. So we've looked at it in a number of different ways, but I will say that the way that we do it does work. So I'd say, if anything, I'd be more happy to show people how to do what I do, rather than there be somewhat of a outside investment, if you will. So I'm starting to get into the rhythm of, perhaps even teaching, my philosophies and my processes. And then perhaps that may go in and may happen in a way where someone invests in a deal, is shadowing me, learns the ropes, and then then assume gets comfortable to then go do their own deals. I've mentored a number of Patriots players. I'm still very involved with the Patriots alumni. So I've mentored a number of guys, have had them meet me on site to walk through a project so that way they knew kind of like line item by line item what they should be looking for. Then from that, there's some players that have actually gone on to purchase real estate, after, some of those walkthroughs and whatnot. So just honestly, I just like to give back. I mean, because we've been able to, experience such a run, from jumping into this till today, we've had quite the run. So I'm at that place where I want to continue to expand, of course. But if there is a way for me to, walk people through or just give insights on how we do what we do or what's possible in real estate, I'm starting to, travel down that path and be able to enlighten others and kind of teach them what can be done here in real estate.
Okay. Wow. Tom Clayton, the next Grant Cardone, real estate coach, real estate guru of New England there. We'll master that domain. That would be great. No, man, you got a great story, obviously a hard worker, making things happen. I've met you, you're very big and strong. So, that's good. It's good. People feel comfortable investing with people that could beat them up if something happens.
If something goes wrong.
That's good, man. That's good. So I love what you're doing up there, and would love to keep abreast of the projects you've going on, possibly participate on the equity side on some of them, but it sounds like you have some great relationships in place. Past players in the NFL would probably love to invest in some of your opportunities as well. If you want to expand out like that and even get into bigger deals, do more deals. But there is a value just working with your own capital, not having outside investors to answer to, because once you take someone's investment capital, then you basically do work for them, right? So you lose that freedom of being your own boss somewhat, So I always say I have about 100 bosses myself, but it's part of the business. So no, it sounds like you're doing great there. Do you guys have like a website or anything like that people could check out more what you got going on?
Absolutely. So you can go to www.livelux, LUXE lease.com. So liveluxlease.com is where you can find us. I believe my wife has an Instagram where you could see photos and whatnot. I believe that's at live.lux.lease.com. So we can be found there. And I think, let me see, is there another one? I think there may be another platform. Well, I think that's good for now, right? You got the website, the Instagram. But so yeah, and so that's pretty much where you could, see our work, and we could be contacted. And I mean, I'm always open to answer a question too. Let's just say if someone from the podcast had a question, happy to answer it. But yeah, man, I'm since you and I have met, I've obviously continued to follow you and your growth and everything. So I know you've got a 44 unit project that you've got on offering to investors right now. So that's amazing. So I just like to just honestly stay posted with what you have going on. Obviously, I'll keep you posted with what I have going on, and we just keep this line of communication going.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, my friend. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, to our listeners that are enjoying these episodes, I think this is a 165 or something around there. Lost track of how many episodes we have in the Passive Cash Flow podcast. But if you're enjoying this content, be sure to like it and share it with someone that you think would gain value from this, even if they're, not, what were the two teams you played for again?
So I was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And traded to the Patriots 3 years after that.
Okay.
And then after the Patriots, I went to the Seattle Seahawks,
Right.
Cleveland Browns, and then I finished with the Cardinals. So within 7 years, I played for 5 teams, believe it or not. So it was an action-packed journey.
Yeah, I think you were in one of the Super Bowls, right? Were we talking about that? Yeah,
2011. I was on the 2011 Super Bowl team. Yes.
Oh man, that was a cool story. Yeah, absolutely. So, but you still work with Giants fans? Is that true?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I got no hard feelings either way. And I would absolutely work with Giants fans, hands down. Absolutely.
All right. Very good, my friend. Very good. All right. So, to our listeners, even if you're Giants fans, Jets fans, you can still connect with Tom. All right. He's a lover, not a hater. So he's open to building his brand out there. And to our listeners, please share, like this content, put it in front of somebody who you think would gain value from our podcast here and could learn more from it. And of course, if you want to learn more about what we're doing here at People's Capital Group, we always have more information at peoplescapitalgroup.com, especially on that 42 unit we're buying in Passaic, New Jersey, and some other projects we have going on also in our other webinars and podcasts up on our website. So check it out at peoplescapitalgroup.com. Thank you so much to our listeners. Enjoy your day.